The sun cast a golden glow over the red earth of Edo State that morning. Apostle Johnson Suleman, dressed in a beautiful flowing suit, stepped into his SUV with his aides and intercessors. He was heading to a 3-day power-packed crusade titled, God of Vengeance, Arise. The anticipation was high, and thousands were expected to attend. But in the realm of the unseen, dark forces had begun to conspire. Unknown to him, a gang of 6 heavily armed men had been paid handsomely to intercept and eliminate him before the event could begin. About 40 minutes into their journey from Ochi to Benin City, just before a lonely bend near Akpela, the atmosphere shifted. The team's convoy, consisting of Apostle Suleman's vehicle and 2 escort cars, slowed as a herd of cattle unexpectedly blocked the road. "Sir, we may need to turn back or wait a bit," one of the drivers radioed from the lead car. Apostle Johnson Suleman glanced out the window. His spirit stirred uneasily. "Pray in tongues," he whispered to his aides. Within seconds, gunshots erupted from the bush. Bullets rained upon the convoy as masked men emerged, brandishing rifles and screaming commands. "Out of the cars! Now!" one shouted, pointing his weapon at the security personnel. The team's escorts tried to respond, but they were outnumbered. Within minutes, all passengers were lined up by the roadside, including Apostle Suleman. His attackers hadn't yet realized who he was. One gang member with a scar over his left eye walked up to him, ripped off his wristwatch, and growled, "You look rich. You'll fetch us something." Another lifted Apostle Suleman's phone and checked through it. "Wait. Isn't this that pastor man from television?" "Suleman?" he asked. The others paused. One man dropped his cigarette. Scarai's expression twisted with a mix of fear and fury. "So it's you," he spat. "You pray against men like us. Let's see if fire will save you now." The leader of the gang cocked his rifle and pressed it against Apostle Suleman's chest. Suddenly, Suleman looked up, calm and unflinching. "You cannot kill me. My blood is not your portion. If you dare shoot, angels will descend." The man laughed mockingly. "Where were the angels when we arrived?" Just then, a strange wind began to blow. Leaves and dust swirled into the air. The trees rustled as though something unseen had stepped into the scene. A loud clap of thunder shattered the clear sky, despite no clouds. Scarai's hand began to shake. "Boss, let's go. This one get power oh." But before they could retreat, 2 of them collapsed to the ground, screaming, clutching their heads. "It's burning! My eyes! Something's burning me!" they cried. The others staggered back in confusion. One tried to lift his weapon, but it flew from his hand as though yanked by an invisible force. In that moment, police sirens wailed in the distance. The gang, panicked and disoriented, tried to flee, but they were trapped. A detachment of military and mobile police had already been tipped off and arrived in minutes. The gang leader attempted to grab Apostle Suleman as a hostage, but the pastor stood unmoved. As he reached out, his hand froze mid-air, paralyzed. He fell to his knees. "I don't know what's happening," he shouted. "Who are you?" Apostle Suleman looked at him with mercy in his eyes. "A servant of the Most High. You didn't plan this. You were sent." "Tell me, who sent you?" Before the gang leader could speak, the police apprehended him and the rest of the surviving members. All were taken into custody. The 2 who collapsed earlier were unconscious and taken to the hospital. Later that evening, Apostle Suleman arrived safely at the crusade grounds in Benin. Thousands had gathered already, praying and waiting for him. News had begun to spread that he had survived an attempted assassination. Taking the microphone, he recounted the incident. "I came here tonight not just as a preacher," he began, "but as a witness to God's miraculous hand. I stared death in the face today, and death blinked. The Lord said, 'Touch not my anointed and do my prophet no harm,' and he meant it." The crowd erupted in shouts and tears. Healings broke out spontaneously as people screamed in tongues and worship. But the story didn't end there. The next day, Apostle Suleman requested to visit the detained gang members in prison. The police were hesitant, but he insisted. When he arrived, the gang leader refused to look him in the eye. "I had no idea who you were. They just paid us," the man said finally. "Who paid you?" Suleman asked. The man hesitated, then whispered a name of a local occultist who had vowed to shut down the crusade. Apostle Suleman sighed. God always reveals his enemies. But I want you to know something. I forgive you. The gang leader looked stunned. Why? We almost killed you. You couldn't kill me, Apostle Suleman replied. I walk with God, but I came here to offer you something better than vengeance. Salvation. Right there in the holding cell, 4 of the gang members broke down and gave their lives to Christ. Back in Benin, the crusade continued with unprecedented power. On the final night, Suleman shared what happened on the road in full detail. This wasn't just an attack on me, he told the crowd. It was an attack on the kingdom's advance. But look around you, the kingdom marches on. That night, more than 3,000 people gave their lives to Christ. Crutches were dropped, blind eyes opened, and the name of Jesus was exalted over Edo State. After the event, Apostle Johnson Suleman returned to his base, strengthened and more determined. He later funded the rehabilitation of the gang members who had turned their lives around, enrolling them in vocational programs and assigning mentors from his ministry. Months later, Scarai, now known as Brother Matthew, stood on the altar in Apostle Suleman's church in Archie, sharing his testimony. I came to kill this man, he said, pointing at Apostle Suleman, but God killed the criminal in me instead. The crowd roared as Apostle Suleman smiled, hands lifted high. Only God can turn an assassin into an evangelist, he said. And this is just the beginning. God is still in the business of protecting his own children. Thanks for watching, and please do well to hit subscribe button and smash that like button.